Welcome to another episode of Jeep Talk. And today I'm going to talk about a personal experience I had with my Jeep. And this is from the 2012 to 2017, the 3.6 Pentastar engines is what I'm going to refer to here on this one. So I'm pretty meticulous with my Jeep and I take care of it very well. As soon as I received it, I was changing the oil when it needed to be changed. I was taking advantage of taking it to the dealer while it was free to do the oil changes and do all those checks that you initially do with the first 2 years of having a vehicle. In my case, it was the Jeep. As soon as that progressed and I was done with that, I took care of it on my own and kept records of everything. One of the things I did do was add an oil catch can. I had read some things out there. The Pentastar engine, the 3.6, is a very good engine. It is very reliable. If you take care of it, it could go all the way to 400,000 miles. The issue, though, that I was reading out there was everyone talking about the valve train, the famous ticking sound that you hear from the valve train. And that's your push rods because there isn't enough oil. You're doing all these dry starts. So I knew this. I was gathering all this information. So within I'd say the first year, I installed a oil catch can from Mishimoto. And then I installed as well a little filter from Mishimoto to filter out all the coolant and anything that's inside there. And then I installed the Baxter system oil filter, removed what I think is a bad design for the Pentastar, and I installed a Baxter oil filter system. So with all that being said, I was like, all right, I should be good. I shouldn't run into any issues. Unfortunately, that is not what happened. So about I'll say it's about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago now, I noticed a little bit of white smoke, a little cloudy white smoke coming out of my exhaust when I would first turn it on, and then it would kind of disappear. So I didn't really think anything of it. It was getting a bit cooler down here in Florida, whatever that means in Florida, but it was a little bit cooler, so I thought it was just condensation, and that's what it could be. So then it happened again, and then it was getting a bit worse, and I'm like, all right, there's something going on here. So I had my son turn it on. I'm smelling it, and it wasn't oil that I was smelling burning. So it was more of like a sweet smell. So I knew right away I had some sort of coolant getting into my piston somewhere. So I went ahead and took my upper intake out, the upper plenum. It's a bit of a process to get to your spark plug. So I took that all out, and I started with the left rear spark plug, which is your number 5. And I took my camera that I have. It's a snake camera, which connects to my phone. You could get these easily on Amazon. It's a must-have in all shops. I could go over that in another video. Put it down there, and sure enough, there's the fluid that I see sitting on the piston. What I'm talking about is this picture here. This is an actual picture of my device that I recorded, and that is what I saw. And I knew right away I was in trouble. And you have to take all this apart here, the upper part of your engine area here, just to get to the spark plugs here on the side. You got this tubing, you got this tubing here that you're dealing with that you have to get out of the way. The one on the right is very easy to get to, but I removed the plug back here. And that is what I saw in it. And the reason I removed that plug is because I did start to get a DTC code, and it was pointing to this plug back here. And then I also have a pretty good device that I use, and I highly recommend everybody should get something if you're going to be doing a lot of work to your Jeep or helping others out, and you plug it into your OBD2. It's a scanner. I have a pretty good one. It's a bi-directional. If you're going to do it, get a bi-directional one. And it was telling me I had an issue back here. And the reason it was telling me I had an issue is because I had all this fluid sitting inside the top of the piston here, which really, really, I mean, it just sucked. So with that being said, I ended up going ahead and scheduling with the dealership that I trust, which is about 45 minutes north of where I am. I don't trust too many of them out there, but this particular one I do trust. So I took it up to those guys because I didn't have all the right equipment, and I wanted to see if if there was something going on where I didn't have to pay full price for this thing and whatnot. Before I decided to go some sort of swap and put a 392 or an LS engine inside the JK. I take it up there. I presented all my evidence, if you will, and they always appreciate that I had like all this stuff already. They didn't have to do a ton of work to go ahead and do what I did already and see what the issue was. So about an hour after waiting in the waiting room there, the service manager comes out, and he's a pretty cool guy, and he's like, "Look, Mario, you're gonna be pissed, but your engine block is definitely warped. We're gonna have to replace it." I'm like, "You got to be kidding me." He's like, "The good news is I have a bunch of them stock in the back, and I thought about it for a second. I'm like, why does he have so many of these in the back in stock? That's a red flag right there. So in talking to him, I'm like, "Look, I know you can't disclose anything. You don't want to tell me it's your guy's fault or Stellantis's fault." And he's like, "Look, there's a situation with particular engines that were manufactured down in the Mexico plant, which mine was. You could see this on the side of your door. It'll tell you where it was manufactured. So if you have one that was manufactured down in Mexico, most likely you might run into this issue. I'm not going to say you are, but you might." So when they do a sandcast process with the engine block, but they don't fully clean it out, and they'll leave some of that residue, that sand in there. And the oil catch can is supposed to get that, but in my case, it did not. So it did warp it. It'll turn into glass. It'll heat up in there. He didn't say that that's what happened, but he was kind of pointing to that direction. And you'll find some lawsuits out there, and I'll show you one here. This is the type of lawsuit that's going on there, and it's been going on for a while, but apparently it's partly dismissed, and it really has to do more with the valve train and more of the push rods, but that wasn't my case. I think they're kind of blending this. People think it's their valve train or something there, but really it's this whole other process that I ran into, which is a frustrating one. It really is. So anyway, he ended up giving me a good deal. I guess we could call it a good deal. At first, they wanted like $12,000. It wasn't covered anymore. I didn't have warranty on it any longer. So I managed to get them down from 12 to 8,000, and I ended up paying $8,000 to get a brand new 3.6 that was manufactured up north out of the Detroit, I believe. Their power plant up there, which is different the way they manufacture up there. So at least now I have pretty much a brand new Jeep. I only have about 10,000 miles. I don't really use my Jeep as much because I have other cars that I use for daily. So I guess that's the good news. I have a brand new engine, and then I thought about putting a supercharger on and a Magnuson, but I backed off, I should say, for a minute. But anyway, that is what I dealt with, and you have to be really careful out there. If you do start to see some smoke and you do have that particular Pentastar, take a look on the inside. If you open your driver's side door, on the inside there'll be some information on your tire pressure, where your vehicle is manufactured. If it was manufactured down in Mexico, you might run into this issue. I'm not going to say you are, but you might if you start to see some of that smoke. Most likely that is what's going on there, and that is what happened to me. So just wanted to share that story, and I'll get into if it makes sense to use an oil catch can, to use some sort of coolant filtering system as well. I've been through all those gadgets. I've tried them all on my Jeep. Same thing with lift kits. So I'll get into that in some other videos down the road. So again, any questions, reach out to mario@jeeptorque.com, or watch me on my YouTube as well, which is Jeep Torque FL, at Jeep Torque FL, or go ahead and leave a comment here on TikTok. I only leave little shorts on TikTok, but go ahead and you could reach me out either way, and I'll try to answer, or at least, let me know your frustrations, and and we could be frustrated together, if you will, and I could share some of my other experiences. All right. Talk to you soon. Take care, and thank you.